Hello, I'm Herm Gailey. We're here today to work on a concept that's a little bit technical and it takes a little bit of feel, but if you don't mind nuts and bolts and you don't mind tinkering, it can be helpful. So I call this softening to a limited bend. So we all know that you build suppleness and softness when you bend your horse. It's why we teach a horse to give to the bridle, like that, at a standstill, like that. And it's why we want to have our horse go forward in a bent position. But here's what happens. If that's as far as it goes, and you're just pulling laterally, you're going to wind up with a horse that does this. Not as pronounced as that because she's pretty sharp off my legs and she's overreacting, but I put a little leg on her to simulate the tendency horses have to evade the bend by overbending. In other words, they're not really softening, they're just running out through their shoulder. So what we tend to neglect when we're schooling on our horses is that the outside rein can limit that bend. So you want to use inside leg and you want to hold the inside rein. But you don't want to be dragging your horse. You just want to set a limit and you want your horse to be light. You don't want to have any trouble holding them in that laterally bent position. But see how she is running out just a little. So what I'll do is I'll bring the outside rein into play. And you can see that she thinks, should I be going out? What's that mean? And I say, no, darling, that just means that you don't bend quite as much and you don't run out through your shoulder. And a horse can be legitimately a little confused by that. But if you do that, you'll find that your horse gets softer and more educated in the bridle as opposed to just soft or responsive to give their head around and not follow with their body. And of course, you can do this at all gaits. Frankly, my favorite gait to do this in is at a trot. So you can trot around like that, and that's what you do on a green colt. And they'd probably run their shoulder out a little bit, but at least you'd have them on the right basic track and you'd have them in the right basic shape. But to clean that up, you engage your outside rein, ride your horse through from the inside rein to that outside, and then you get to where you got more steering, because that's a pretty tight circle. You get more steering, which you wouldn't get if all you did was pry your horse's nose over and kind of let their shoulder go where it will. So this helps you to gain control of the shoulder. And what I'll do when I really want to accentuate the difference, I'll go tap, tap. And that's a little against my general rules where I'll pull to a point, but here I'll go tap, tap. Move that horse's shoulder over. Tap, tap. And you teach them to move off that outside rein, so you're building some neck rein responsiveness and you're moving their shoulder over to where you can just very easily get your horse to respond to that outside rein, limit the bend, move their shoulder over. It's something you do through repetition. It's something that you need to have some feel for because you don't want to invert your horse. You don't want to inadvertently make your horse stiff. You also don't want to maintain a bunch of bend and just be dragging on that outside rein. But what you wind up with ultimately is a horse that if you're sitting still, you engage your outside leg and your outside rein. You get a very nice soft start. And you can see though that she kind of wanted to stiffen toward the end of that. And just to sort of address that, what I would probably do is this. I'm going to keep her nose somewhat in. I'm going to pick up that outside rein, send her around, whoa, 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 and stop with her head bent. That way, she knows she can't evade by looking to the outside. So that kind of shows you how far you can go with the simple concept of softening your horse up by limiting that bend and taking that bend and turning it into shoulder control. And then without even knowing it, you wind up with a horse that'll turn around. You know, the first couple times I started playing with this, I'd ask my horse to turn around. They didn't know how, but they did. I thought, well, maybe they do know how. Maybe these were useful building blocks toward that. They were useful for me. If they're useful for you, they're yours. Come back and see us next time.